Hello, in this lecture I'm going to teach you how to make a scalar product of vectors. So what is a scalar product? Well, a scalar product of two vectors can be constructed by taking the component of one vector in the direction of the other and then multiplying it by the magnitude of the other vector. So the result of a scalar product between two vectors is always a scalar number. And the scalar product is also called inner product or dot product in some mathematics texts. Let's take a look how it works. So how do we calculate it? Well, we can calculate the scalar product or dot product of two vectors this way. We have the scalar product between vector A and B is the magnitude of vector A times the magnitude of vector B times the cosine of the angle between these two vectors. We can also do these calculations in another way if the vectors are expressed in terms of unit vectors I, j, and k along the x, y, and z directions, something like this. So we have that the scalar product can be expressed in this form. We're just multiplying the components of each vector in each direction and then adding them together. And how do we calculate the angle between two vectors? Well, we can just take the formula we've seen before and rearrange it to isolate the angle. In this case here, we have the formula to calculate the angle between two vectors. But how do we make sense out of it? Why cosine of the angle between the two vectors? Well, you can think as to make sense to multiply their lengths. We can only do it if they're pointing the same direction. We cannot multiply two vectors pointing different directions. So we make them point in the same direction if we multiply it by the cosine of the angle between them. You can think as if it's the projection of a shadow from one vector into another. Let's go through an example solution. We have the endpoints of two poles measured as in the figure here, so we know the components, the x, y, and z components of each of the two vectors, and we want to calculate the angle between them. So if we take the scalar product formula, we can multiply each component and then add them together. So we have 4 times 9 plus 8 times 2 plus 10 times 7. And we have a result of 122. Remember, it's always a scalar number. Now we can use the angle formula, but we need first to find the magnitude of each vector. If you remember, the magnitude of vector A, for example, is the square root of the x component squared plus the y component squared plus the z component squared. If we add these values here, we have that the magnitude of vector A is the square root of 180. Similar to vector A, we have vector B. We can use the same formula and find that the magnitude of vector B is the square root of 134. We also know that the inner product or the dot product, or the scalar product between A and B, it's 122, as we calculated before. So we can just put them into the angle formula. And we have that the angle between these two vectors is around 38.8 degrees. That's it for today. Thank you very much.
If you found this video helpful, remember to subscribe and stay tuned.